Hi, welcome to this final talk of the season for the Apero-Talks, hosted by Le Wagon. Le Wagon is coding school for entrepreneurs. 9 weeks, really cool. If any of you in the room want to learn more, talk to Charlotte. Pink dress, really nice. So tonight we're gonna take it easy, of course. Who likes food here? Come on. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Who has ever ordered food on the phone with Pizza Hut, something, anything? Pretty good, pretty good. And who knows Take It Easy? Yeah, so for YouTube, it's everyone almost, because we're in Brussels and you're the kings, okay? So Take It Easy is kind of the seamless of Europe, let's say. It's getting there.
There's actually a major difference.
I know, but that's what we're here to talk about.
Right.
And so let's have a big round of applause for Adrien Roose, the CEO.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
So let's start by hearing your story. Where are you from? What happened? How are you here?
Where do you want me to start?
Birth.
No, so in a nutshell, I studied in Belgium, high school. I studied a bit in China as well, and I came back to Louvain-la-Neuve, which is like university in Belgium. Very, I'd say, traditional path. Like I studied business engineering, majored in finance, and then I went to work for a bank. That lasted a year. I ended up actually. My last assignment while I was working for that bank was working in mergers and acquisition in London, and that's when and where I actually started to discover these online food ordering websites and services. And then, you know, I had this strong desire to build something of my own, so I quit the bank, came back to Brussels. Started to work for a few months in an advertising agency. This is something I knew nothing about, marketing. Like I had one class during 5 years of studying business, which to me still don't make sense at all. And then at that same time, I started recruiting the 3 people who are now my co-founders, and started working on this idea. And this initial idea was to improve the state of online food ordering. That had been developed since like 15 years in the US, as you said, by Seamless Web at the beginning, which is now Grubhub, which is now a listed company. But basically all they do, like in Belgium, is the leader is Pizza.be. All they do is list restaurants that have their own delivery service, and they allow you to order food online instead of ordering food through the telephone. Problem with that is that that's something we didn't realize at the beginning, by the way. It took us like at least 6 months within Take It Easy to realize that, is that even if in continental Europe at least, it's a bit less true in the US, in the UK, even if you select the best restaurant that have their own delivery service, these are still pretty low-end restaurants, and delivery is not their core business. So at the end of the day, you have a relatively poor offer and a relatively unprofessional delivery service.
Sure.
So that's when we decided to position Take It Easy as a tech intermediary between independent couriers, premium restaurants, and customers who wanted something better delivered home. But as I said, it took us quite a while to figure that out.
Okay, so technically speaking, yeah, it's you connect the restaurant to the customer, and then you put the courier also in there, and then on the platform you can see how everything happens live, kind of. Yeah. Is that how it started from the get-go? Like once you realized you needed to improve the delivery system.
Who here is already running his own startup or his own business, just to have an idea? Okay.
So that's about 6 people.
Yeah. Okay. So what I think is interesting, I just want to make clear is at the beginning we had nothing. Like technically, like I signed the first 10 restaurants with only Photoshop slides. Like we didn't have a website first. Then once we had restaurants, we had to build the app. I mean, we didn't have to build the app first. We needed people to order food from our platform.
Sure.
And once we had that, we didn't have an app to dispatch the orders. So we were just sending text message to couriers. We actually started TakeEatEasy by a partnership with a courier company in Brussels, which is called Azure. So we started collaborating with them, and we were just dispatching manually the orders to these couriers. Like, why do you need 3 or 6 months to build an app to dispatch 2 orders a night?
True.
So that's how we started. And at one point, I remember like it was like 1 or 2 months after we started. We had 5 and then 6 and then 7 couriers on the road. Then we couldn't dispatch it manually anymore. So I spoke to my co-founder, my technical co-founder, and I told him, okay, you need to make an app quickly. And so like, I think 20 days later, we had a first prototype of that dispatching app. What we call now the courier application.
Sure.
And then we've been improving it since then.
Okay. So now how do you get new restaurants, for example, let's say? How does that process work? Do they come knock on your door? No. Some
more and more. But that's something that you don't have from the start, obviously.
Yeah,
and
obviously.
So at the very beginning, I was the one pitching restaurants, which was not easy to do. Like some of you, I don't know, maybe sales for you is in your nature, or maybe you have a co-founder that will do sales for you. I was the business co-founder, so I had to do sales. I had to learn sales. It's extremely hard. Especially like in the restaurant industry, restaurant owners get pitched all the times for a lot of things they don't want. I think on average they get pitched 10 times a day for things they don't need and they don't want. So you basically have to attract their attention. I signed the first 30 restaurants, and then at one point we had seed funding to hire our first salesperson. But now, obviously, once you try to scale that, you have to build a proper sales organization.
Right.
I think at the moment we have nearly, I don't even know, 15 or 20 business developers.
Okay.
Not in Brussels though, but in different countries.
But they also do the user acquisition, maybe, or just restaurant?
No, they just do restaurant sales, restaurant acquisition, full time. So it depends which kind of business you guys are building, but if you do build this kind of marketplace, you might have to learn sales and to scale sales along the way.
All right, sure. And so what's your strategy for user acquisition? Same question. Is it grow natural, kind of?
The good thing about our model, which is, the easy way for us to explain what we do is like kind of Uber for food. But a big difference and a big advantage for us is that Uber has to manage customers and drivers. We manage customers, couriers, and restaurants. The good thing is that each restaurant that we add to the platform actually makes, advertise for its new delivery service, which is TakeEatEasy. And so for each restaurant that we add on the platform, we manage to get to convince some part of the customer base to try the new delivery service of that restaurant.
Because there's no
so that's really our growth engine, and we've been able to grow until very recently with extremely limited amount of marketing with this strategy. But you have to fuel it in a way. Like we were still giving out coupons to restaurants for them to distribute them to their customers.
I've seen a few of those.
We give them like stickers to put on the door, posters to put on the wall. We try to have them put a direct link from their website to our website. Same on their social network. Try to make a post. These are a very cost-efficient way that you can start growing.
Clever. I heard, for example, seamless. Because how do the restaurants get the packaging? Do they have to handle that themselves?
At the moment, yes. We make sure that the packaging is okay, which is really a challenge. Most of the restaurants we work with did not have a delivery service before, but they were still, what we didn't know and we discovered, like most restaurants, like nearly every single restaurant does takeaway sales if you ask. So if you ask, can I come by in like 20 minutes and pick up my food?
Sure.
Most restaurants will agree. And to do that, they already are working with some kind of packaging in a way. So some of them work with okay packaging, some of them is like horrible. And the bad part is that if it's a horrible packaging, the courier is unhappy, Customer is extremely unhappy. We have to refund him.
Not good.
It's a nightmare. Really.
Yeah, I bet. Because I heard that Seamless started with doing like they just gave the restaurant plastic bags with the discount code on it.
Okay.
They
tried a lot of things.
That was their strategy. And so, okay. And so, what happens, because it's the same price as a regular restaurant. So,
yes.
How do you make money? Let's hear about that a little bit.
So it's very simple. We charge a commission to the restaurant on each order that we bring them and deliver for them. So it's really a service that they pay for. And we ask a small delivery fee to our customers. In Brussels, customers pay 3.5 euros for delivery. That's really simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have quite a lot of costs because you have to pay the couriers.
Yeah.
And so, okay. But you're making money, you're good, obviously.
It's a numbers game. Like you definitely need to be processing thousands of deliveries per day to start having a business.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the unit economics are good from the start. Like
cool.
We're making money on each order that we deliver.
Okay, and so now what happens if a really popular restaurant you want it on your website, a really popular one, their kitchen is fully utilized and they have all the clients they need? How can you have them the coolest new place?
It's hard because this is obviously the exact restaurants that we want on our platform, and in an ideal world we only want these restaurants. Mm-hmm. So first of all we have to convince them to work with us, right? So they might not be looking for extra revenue, but they might be looking for a way to keep their existing customer base, or to offer their existing customers an additional service. For example, let's say there's a great restaurant that you love, mm-hmm. but then you're tired, you're at home, it's raining, you want to get delivered, and your favorite restaurant does not deliver to your place. What are you going to do? You're going to order from Pizza Hut or Sushi Shop.
That's the problem.
So that's one reason for them to offer this service. Everybody's starting to do it. You kind of it is becoming like a must-have for restaurants. And then once we manage to convince them, obviously we don't want to be sending them orders if they can't accept them. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the point? They're just going to be late. Our courier is going to be waiting in front of the restaurant. The customer is going to get his food late. So that's really where we try to add value by customizing our logistics and our technology, so restaurants can. So we offer flexible restaurants a flexible solution to the restaurant we work with. For example, if they have too many orders, what we want to be able to do is, like you say, you can say, okay, I don't want any more orders for the next 15 minutes, for example.
Okay.
Or for them to be able to put limits, like on Friday night, I want a maximum of 5 orders between that time and that time. Yeah. Like, this is the kind of innovation that we're working on.
Okay. So they work with what app?
At the beginning, it was a very ugly, big 3G printer that we were ordering on Alibaba in China, and it actually works. Like, all of the online food ordering players are using that. Mm-hmm. It's really easy. You put a SIM card in it, it prints out. Okay. It's a way for us to send an order and to have a validation from the restaurant.
Sure.
The problem with that is that you can't do everything that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So now we are switching all of them to tablets.
Okay. Nice. All right. Let's hear your general startup advice. Cliché question alert, but yeah. What would be the best advice to a new entrepreneur?
That's a tough question. I've just started. It's my first company. I don't know. I'm not one to give advice, but I'm glad that the founding team is extremely strong. Mm-hmm. Two of my co-founders I know for more than 15 years. One is my sister. We are extremely complementary. Like, one is a computer science master. The other one is a math PhD. Chloe studied design. Okay. And I studied business.
Perfect.
So we are complementary. We respect each other's decision.
Sure.
and we trust each other. I think that's extremely key. But
yeah.
That's just one topic. Yeah, sure.
So, how much time after you decide to work together did you quit your jobs?
So I came back. I already quit my job when I came back from London, and I was just working in advertising on the side just to get TakeEatEasy starting. So that was in the very beginning of 2012, and then we started to work on evening weekends on the idea with my co-founders, and then in the summer of 2012 we got selected by NestUp, an incubator. And then, so that was in the winter of 2012. So that was already 6 months later. And I managed to convince my co-founders to not to quit their job at that time, but to ask for like a 3 months unpaid leave, so we could do NestUp together. And at the end of NestUp, I convinced all of them to quit their job. It still took time, like some of them, like one of them joined me 3 months later, the other one joined me like full time 6 months later, but you find your ways around it.
Okay, so now can we talk a little bit about, there's a lot of players on this market. Even in Europe already, there's, I don't know, maybe 7 from what I looked up, something like this. In the US, I counted around 14 that are valued over $10 million. It's like there's maybe 8 of them who are, if you look up a restaurant on Google, you can straight away order for them. So how is that going to work? Will you be the ultimate winner?
I don't think there's going to be one ultimate winner.
No, I don't.
But coming back to the very first thing I said, I mean, there's a fundamental difference between what we do and what most of the existing players do, and there's way more than 9 or 14.
Yeah, probably.
There are hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them, but you're right. We are seeing a major consolidation in the space, and that's in the traditional model, like in the pure online ordering model. What the TakeEatEasy model?
On your approach,
there's 4 now in Europe.
Okay.
Well, 4 from a reasonable size, I would say.
Sure.
But we all just started.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And so, I don't know if we can talk a bit about your Series A.
Sure.
Because it's one of the companies, you're now in the same big group, which is owned by Rocket Internet, is that right?
Yes, right. I mean, we have an investment from Rocket Internet, but we are not part of their food group.
Okay.
I mean, TakeEatEasy is still independent.
Okay.
Completely.
Nice.
So
it's
Why not?
Sorry?
How did you manage to not be in a group?
You don't want to be in the group, or is
their food group? I'm not sure of the exact word. Is basically a holding where
global
they put
online takeaway something.
It's a holding where they have all of their major participations, and these companies are run by Rocket Internet. We're coming to the details, but we didn't take an investment from Rocket Internet, but from Global Founders, which is the investment fund of Rocket Internet.
All right, and talking about the future, expansion is going strong. I see, lots of new cities. How does that work?
It's going well, like really. So, like just to come back to the story. So we ended NestUp. We started TakeEatEasy in Belgium with the wrong idea. I mean, we wanted to improve the online food ordering process, but we didn't realize that we had to work with better restaurants, and that for us to work with better restaurants, we had to provide a delivery service. So that took us an additional 6 to 9 months. Then we launched in Brussels. It went well. It went slow because we didn't know how to do sales. And we learned how to do sales, and then it went better. Then with the bit of funding that was left, because we raised money from angel investors, we decided to launch in Paris. That was the best decision we've taken so far. In Paris, we did not make all of the mistakes that we had made previously during like 2 years in Brussels. So it went really well. And it's with the growth that we've benefited from in Paris that I was able to raise our Series A.
Yeah.
And we are now using this money to expand to Germany, Spain, and the UK.
Great. Okay, perfect. Now I think we can switch to questions. Who's ready? Here we go. I'm going to repeat them every time for the mic. Okay.
Sure.
So how do you compare Paris to Brussels right now? Is it much bigger or?
How much bigger is Paris to Brussels in market-wise?
Yeah, is your question in terms of market size or current TakeEatEasy operations?
Everything you want to disclose.
everything you want.
Like, if you look at a map of Brussels and if you look at a map of Paris, they actually look extremely similar. Yeah. It's nearly the same size. The very big difference is that this whole Paris, Intramuros, is like nearly the same as the trendiest neighborhood in Brussels, for example, let's say XL, right? So it's like if you fill Brussels with XL, and then if you double the population density. So it's not 10 times bigger, it's 20 times bigger.
Yeah. Okay. And also in personnel that works for you?
We have a team of 1, 2, 3, 7, 8 people in Paris. But they're not all dedicated to Paris, they're dedicated to France.
And how many in Brussels?
One. There's one person dedicated to Brussels right now.
Okay, but
and we are, by the way, looking for a city manager in Brussels.
Ah, okay, here we go.
As well as developers.
Developers, we got plenty, we're good.
Java though.
Java, we got a couple.
And Android.
Oh, well, we can work on it. It'll be okay. Okay, here we go.
When did you start fundraise? When was the point that you decided to just do fundraising?
Okay, so when did you take the decision to start fundraising and Series A?
Series A or before that?
Anything.
Anything, yeah.
Okay, I think if you're one of the founder of your startup who is in charge of that, you should start fundraising now, and you should never stop. Mm-hmm. That's what I've learned. Like fundraising it's actually an ongoing process. You're not necessarily always raising a round, but you're always preparing for your next one. So it's about meeting potential investors that could invest now, that could invest in 3 months, that could invest in 6 months. To be honest, when we started looking for fundraising in Belgium, wasn't easy. I remember pitching to the different business angel associations, but I mean at that time I can't. It's hard for me to say that to have negative feelings towards them, because like we had the bad idea and what we were doing was not worth investing on. But my advice would be to get money from the easiest sources at the very beginning, and the most trustworthy sources that won't ask you for a return on investment like 2 months after they invested. You know, that people that can trust you running your own show. You know.
So what's the best, like family or private investors first? What's it?
It depends on everyone's situation.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And
just roughly, how many investors you have? Like you have major investors, you have minority investors, and how do you manage the investor relations? I mean, you have like regular meetings, or how the process look like?
Okay, so how do you manage all your minor, major investors? How does that work? Relations with them.
So I think the way we've managed investors basically hasn't changed since we had investors, which means that we've always tried to update them on a regular basis. And in our case, it was I tried to do it monthly at the beginning, but it was actually once every 2 months. We should have done it monthly. You should do it as frequently as you can. I think keep them in the loop, so there is no surprise every after 3 or 6 months. Now it's getting a bit more formal, since we now have a proper board with obligations. Like so now we are doing 8 meetings per year. I'm legally obliged to do that. That's extremely helpful. That's when I can bring up tough decisions or show them what's working, what's not. They've invested, or investors, or current Series A investors have invested in dozens of amazing other companies and they've learned something from that they can share with us. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
What were the key elements that made your decision to integrate or not in your structured logistic part? So you started with Azure, then?
Yeah. So how did the process of incorporating the whole courier service work? Because you started with Hush and then you went even bigger, right?
Okay. So yeah. So when Azure is great and it's amazing. It's an amazing company, but what we quickly realized that TakeEatEasy was going to be a tech intermediary between couriers, restaurants, and customers, and we couldn't afford to not managing every bit of that. Like we can't outsource that. That's our main competency. Like that's what we do. We manage the relationship between the restaurants and the couriers. So we can't just outsource all of the courier operations. And we've learned that as we grew. Like when we started working with them, there were 2. Now in Brussels, there are like 300 or 400 bike couriers that work for TakeEatEasy. So and it was the same in Paris actually. When we started in Paris, we partner with again a small courier company, which again did an amazing job to help us start. And at the beginning, we didn't have all of the process or all the technology or all of the funding to do it ourselves. So we were glad to partner with them to start with. But again, we quickly became bigger than the biggest courier company in Paris, and we had to control from A to Z what that meant, both in terms of technology, in terms of logistics, in terms of branding, in terms of cost structures.
Do you have a next step in terms of integration for the cooking part as well?
Sorry?
If you really want to control the whole value chain, will you integrate also the cooking at some point? Or
That's a good.
Something that is.
That's a really good question because you see models the biggest one is Munchery in the US, which is now valued at 600 millions. Basically, they do what we do, but they don't work with restaurants. They cook the meals themselves. So they've become actually a giant caterer. Exactly, a giant caterer. They do they combine the best cooking processes and facilities with today's technology. That's what made them so successful. It's a different model, and we're not going to switch to that direction.
Yeah, same with the Blue Apron and the one where you receive the ingredients. That's not really your competitors, right?
I mean, it's an indirect competitor. It's a way for people to get quality food in an easier way.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a direct competitor.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else?
Sorry, still thinking. So, if your main model is that you're going after mid-range and upper-range restaurants, of course, sales point is not just food but quality food, right?
Yeah.
So how it seems like your restaurants may not have experience delivering like food, or they don't.
They don't deliver food, yeah.
And the quality may suffer in the process. So, and they may not have experience with what happens. They're experienced in preparing like meals that will be eaten as soon as they get out on the table, right? So that's part of the goodness of them. How do you facilitate the feedback process between the customer and the restaurant, and indeed the customer and yourself, so the restaurant can learn to make a meal that's still good 15 minutes later? And if something goes wrong, do you take the hit, or does the restaurant take the hit?
Probably both.
That's a really good question again, and it's actually something that we're really focused on right now and working on right now. So that there are different parts to answer this question. Like first of all, we don't work with too high-end restaurants. Like when the price of the food you eat in a restaurant, when it starts to include, the atmosphere, the way you get served at the table, the presentation, etc. Then we think that if we deliver this food to you and you're not eating at the restaurants, you're overpaying for this food. So we don't work with this kind of restaurants. Really mid-range quality food. Second of all, we limit the distance at which we deliver food from, at which we allow customer to order food, so from their home or from their office to the restaurant. So if you log in Brussels, you can order food from a restaurant that is a maximum distance of 4.2 kilometers away from you. In Paris, it's 3 kilometers away from you. It's a distance that we change by city. With that parameter, we make sure that the food stays maximum 10. Well, in Paris, it's maximum 10 minutes on average in the courier's bag. So that's one way to limit the potential impact. The third way is really to start educating them and improving the way they work with the current packaging, and as you say, creating some kind of feedback loop. So we measure everything we do, like from when a customer order on TakeEatEasy, they can rate each dish, they can rate the packaging, they can rate the couriers. So we look at all of these KPIs, and when we see that one restaurant is underperforming, one of the restaurant operation manager has to go and talk to that restaurant and say, okay, look, there is obviously an issue with your packaging. We're going to help you improve it by, you should try this kind of packaging to improve it.
Great. Good answer. Here we go. Up there.
Your model is really scalable. And when I first have heard of your project, I was really impressed. I thought you would go much faster. But of course, it's because we are outside your project. And I'm wondering why you go like big cities to big cities, and you don't go, I don't know, with other people relaying you locally to go to smaller city to grow faster, to be faster on the market, on the coverage of the regions. Why only capitals? And you're not the only one like this. Many others are like you with a nice business model, something which is attracting investors, but still you want to go from capital to capitals. That I don't understand.
Okay, so the question is, now that you're super successful and you can work, you've made it successful in most cities, why aren't you going to every smaller city and make it global?
Again, good question.
What is stopping you?
It's always a question of allocating resources, and you have to understand that in this market, which is getting more and more competitive, there's also a land grab question. Like, you know, the first one was in Paris. It's easier to remain the first one. And these bigger cities, these capitals, they have more value, because if you're the leader in Berlin, you have more chances to, be the leader in Munich and Hamburg afterwards, and then once you're leader in these three cities, you lower the opportunity for other players to enter Germany as a whole, and then you can take all the time you want to go to the smaller cities. So there's that's one element of answer. The other side to that is that we're testing it out on smaller cities, but it's obviously, you have to set up all of these operations and processes, and you have to sign up restaurants, get couriers, manage all of that, communications. With city that is too small, it might not have the potential simply from a financial point of view, but that's something that we are testing out.
What is your vision for the future? Do you have a vision for the company? About
Dominate.
new implementations?
Could you specify a bit your question?
Do you have some dreams to value the company?
We, as a company, like we tried to have this exercise last week and to understand why we were doing this.
Yeah, that's a
like,
good question.
as a company, we want to make life tastier. That's what we came up with.
Nice.
That implies many things. So that implies that we want to improve life of our customers in this way. Just to make the eating experience easier or better or funnier or whatever. We just want to improve that side of life. If we want to have an impact, we have to provide our service to as many people as we can. So obviously right now focus is on growth, and it's on improving what we're already doing. There's small innovations that can actually dramatically change the way we operate. So from the outside, it might seem that that we're not that we're sticking to what we do and that we're not bringing anything new. But from the inside, there's a lot of things that we're innovating on that really help us do a better job and scaling better and faster.
He came riding a drone. That's what he's saying. No. But it's a good question, because also Amazon is doing it the other way. So maybe you see yourself delivering stuff other than food in the future, because Amazon is wanting to start the restaurant delivery thing. So
no, that's actually a question we had amongst co-founders at the very beginning as well, and the answer is no, we don't want to deliver anything but food.
Okay.
But I mean, there are reasons for that. First of all, food delivery is 80% of the market.
Yeah,
and second of all, if you focus on one thing, you can do it better than if you act as a generalist.
True.
But we have one computer in Paris that delivers everything.
Yeah.
It's like Postmates clones.
Mm-hmm.
We are killing them, because we are able to do a much better job because we decided to focus on restaurant delivery. So we're becoming experts, on exactly that.
Yeah.
Last question, sorry. What is your biggest failure until now inside the company? I mean, not person.
What scares you right now?
That's a different question.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's say.
I'd say a biggest failure, I'm not sure it's a failure, but what I regret most is that I've taken personally too much time to understand sales. It's taken me a year, I think, to fully understand it. And that's what drives our business, but I think that's what drives every business, most businesses, not necessarily all startups. And what I mean by sales, in our case, was restaurant acquisition. Pitching our idea to restaurants and having restaurants on board. But I think it's the same issue for every marketplace, and the answer might not be sales, but you have to find a way to have content. And in our case, content is restaurants. And I was too slow to understand that.
Okay, last question. Here we go.
You work in different cities, the team seems to be growing. How do you deal with that management? If you have experiences, how do you deal with managing everybody everywhere? And you have different actors from different specialties. How do you deal to keep the spirit of the collective?
This is something new for us, so this is one of the big challenge ahead, to build and manage efficiently an organization that is completely decentralized. I have no answer to your question. We're trying to do our best. Like last week, we had everyone at our headquarters here now in Brussels. We had full week workshop to make sure everyone was aligned on strategy. We ended it with a big party. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is and that's actually one of our challenges as well, is internal communication. I was so surprised. I was talking to a person that worked with us to make sure that all of the deliveries, everything is automated, but we still have one person that looks at the screens and makes sure that everything is going well. And she didn't know that we were replacing 3G printers with tablets. And when she told me that, I was like, oh wow, we are extremely bad at internal communication. There's different ways you can work on that. So we came up with solutions to have one weekly internal newsletter. But then the challenge is how do you make it interesting for people to read it and not just be a waste of time. Another thing we're doing is that we're using Slack, which is a chat. But again, the challenge there is how do you make it, how do you structure it to be able to capture the information that you have to capture. I'm interested by by what a business developer in Berlin is facing every day. Like, how do I make sure that this information come back to his manager and ultimately to me? So these are the challenges we're facing.
Cool. Plenty of questions now. Okay.
That's all right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, last one.
We were thinking about employee. Do you have a share pool for employee?
Do you have an options pool for employee?
Yeah. We.
Good. So you can join the company.
We're doing that now with the Series A. It's extremely painful in Belgium. Thank you, Europe. And like not only in Belgium, but we have to adapt it to Germany, Spain, England, etc. So I don't regret it 1 second of doing it. I think it's every startup at one point. You don't have to do that from the beginning, but at one point you have to do it. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to attract top talent to join you. And building a startup or any company is all about building the best people. So you should do it, but just know that it's extremely complicated and costly in Belgium.
Okay, maybe the last question. Okay.
I wanted to ask, how big is the effort for recruiting the courier? I guess you have a big turnover of couriers coming. Also, if you have to fire some couriers.
Couriers, hiring, firing, how's that work?
Actually, so at the very beginning we had to advertise a bit. We did that nearly only on Facebook. But now we don't do any advertisement, and we have, I would say, too many, but we have more than enough couriers joining us every week, and that's purely word of mouth. So I guess we're making a few things right. And yeah, to answer your question, we did had to fire one or two, actually a few couriers.
Because you said for the future, one of the key points for you is going to be customer service, right?
Yes.
So that goes by. Are you training the couriers at all?
We are training them. I mean, there's information session, there's a training session, but at one point, it's just about acting like a
cool guy,
like a human being.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank you very much for coming and for watching if you're on YouTube. And let's give it a big round of applause, and there are drinks available. So thank you.
Thank you.